And it's 7:48, 12 minutes before 8 o'clock, Daybreak, Nevada here on A Sure Happy. It's Tuesday edition, the 5th day of January. Hockey is just around the corner. In fact, 9 days away? 14th, I believe, is the first game. I'll get the confirmation of that from Dan Duba, the play-by-play man for the Vegas Golden Knights that you hear all across the state right here on the Nevada Talk Network. Dan, first day of training camp yesterday. Did you see much? Can you tell us much of anything about what's going on?
Hi, Wyatt. It's good to be with you. The most notable thing to me was how much it looked like the Knights were in mid-camp form. And the thing to remember is, even though the training camp officially began yesterday with on-ice activity, and there were some different groups that they started out, and eventually everybody got on the ice together for a full-on scrimmage. But it's also worth remembering that most of the players, a good chunk of them, have been in Las Vegas skating separately. So they've been on the ice for about 5 weeks, about 21 skating sessions over the course of about 34 days. So it hasn't been official training camp over those 5 weeks, but the point is they have been on the ice. They have been preparing for this. So what we saw yesterday and what we'll continue to see over these remaining days before the season starts is a pretty crisp hockey. It's not quite regular season form, but it's better than you would normally see on perhaps the first day of a normal training camp.
Yeah, Kelly McCrimmon did a press briefing on Sunday. We aired part of that yesterday morning here, and he said he was really surprised that the team was in as good a shape as they could be.
Right, and I think that these days the strength and conditioning of these athletes year-round is so impressive. It's not like the old days where training camp for pro athletes was really a matter of getting back into shape. These guys are in shape year-round. So it's the little things. It's getting the timing back. Remember, this is Pete DeBoer's first full season, so maybe there are some things he wants to implement, some strategical implementation, and we'll see how that plays out. We're curious to see what the different line combinations might be, the different defensive pairs. It's also worth noting that there are a few of the Golden Knights prospects who are not here yet because they're participating in the World Junior Championships, and they'll need to quarantine before coming across the border. And I think that Peyton Krebs would be one of those prospects that Golden Knights fans might expect to see in regular season action. So for the most part, we're just getting a feel of what the team will look like, different players. Of course, the acquisition of Alex Pietrangelo, get to see his number 7. They've got jersey numbers on the sleeves for the practice jerseys, which we have not seen before. So that makes the broadcasters happy.
Well, anything to make your job easier. That's the most important thing.
That's right.
We got about a minute and so left here. I want to touch on the fact that this is all going to be really different than ever. It's all going to be within the conference for this season. How is that going to affect the playoffs when the Knights get to the playoffs?
Yeah, it's so bizarre. Normally, you'd have an 82-game regular season that would start in early October. Of course, here we're starting in mid-January, so 56 games. And you're cutting it down in terms of number of games, but also in the number of opponents. Vegas would normally play every other team in the league, 30 teams. You'd play the Eastern Conference, one home, one away, and then different numbers for the Western Conference, and obviously you play your division opponents the most. This year, it is only divisional opponents. Slightly realigned because the Canadian teams can't cross the border, so the Knights have a few additional opponents that they wouldn't normally have in the division: St. Louis, Minnesota, and Colorado, plus the regular San Jose, Los Angeles, Anaheim, and Arizona. So in those divisional matchups, 7 opponents will be played 8 times each. That gets you to 56. So normally it's like you play your division rival 4 times. Now it's 8 times, plus a potential postseason series, meaning let's just say it's the Golden Knights and the Sharks again. They could play 15 times in the regular season and the playoffs. So lots of rivalries. You can imagine that will be a big part of the strategy this season. And you're going to be playing teams 2 times in a row, at least sometimes 4 times in a row. And that is very atypical
Well, they'll get to know one another real well. January 14th, that's a Thursday. Knghts and the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. You'll hear it right here on the Nevada Talk Network. Dan Duba, thanks for joining us again. We'll talk sometime during the season here and see how things are going. And if that outdoor event happens in Reno, I know you'll be bundled up.
Fingers crossed for that. Thank you very much, Wyatt. Great to be with you, and best to all of your listeners.
Take care. 7:54 where Nevada comes to talk.